So at some point, I start really, I just break it down to, I just go back. I go back to basically relearn how to draw. All the stuff I was doing prior to this, I was trying to get better, but I wasn't doing it correctly. Um, Going to the comic book conventions, uh, and standing in line and getting a bunch of advice from people really steered me in this direction of of improvement. I think uh, there was some harsh criticism, but harsh criticism has never stopped me from trying to achieve my goals. So I took what worked and applied it, and whatever was supposed to be some kind of weird insult, I just let that fuel my desire. So as you can see here, I start doing, I think this was Alpha Flight. Yeah, this is Alpha Flight samples. Um, and basically, this will be like a series of samples from my Comic Con years, trying to become a professional comic book artist. I want to say this is probably like mid 90s, yeah, mid 90s, 90, 95, 96 or something like that. This is Supergirl samples. Yeah, so the rave scene was pretty big at the time. I believe this is Psylocke. No, no, not Psylocke. This is the one from Cyberforce. I forget the character's name. But I'm being basically inspired by a lot of image stuff. Travis Sharris and Mark Silvestri. I think those guys were like the most at that time. They were probably the more powerful, impressive guys at Image at the time, along with Aaron Weisenfeld and Richard Bennett and all those guys who came a little bit later. But yeah, I'm starting to learn a little bit about perspective here, and it's all about pencils and figuring out nibs and inking. For a while there, I spent a lot of time trying to learn how to ink. I think at this point, I was living with Troy Hubbs, who would go on to ink Travis Charest. He had basically the perfect Comic Con success story, bringing samples to San Diego, showing those samples and impressing people, and being basically hired on the spot to work at Top Cow. You can see a lot of Travis in this stuff right here. A lot of stiff pencil work. Me trying to emulate what was at the time the industry standard, which was Image. A lot of Image comics here. I like that figure. Yeah, so this is me just doing a lot of samples and hoping that at one of these comic book conventions that I would have the kind of success story that Troy would eventually have. It never happened. I eventually had to just basically self-publish my own ideas. I love this. I love that Spartan. I mean, it's stiff, but it's kind of cool looking there. Um, Time went on, and eventually the comic book market crashed. And I was still doing comics, my own comics, or basically, trying to get into comic books. And I eventually went into animation. A friend of mine named Roy Burdine, he basically explained to me that uh, animation is really where it's at, because not only are the artists better in animation, but you get paid basically to learn how to become a better artist. And I think some of that training is showing in the later pages. By this point, there's some rough areas, but I was doing stuff that I was liking a little bit more. I think this was my first professional gig, was Malibu Comics. I worked on a Raiden Kano miniseries, and I was so excited to finally get this chance. Okay, so this is 95. So excited to get this chance to finally, work for Malibu, who at the time, Malibu was like, they were on par with Image for a little bit at the beginning. And then Image just blew up and split off and did their own thing. They became a phenomenon unto themselves. All right, moving on.